This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Joe George here with you on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Matthew Boyd, fantastic for the Chicago Cubs in the game today. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we'll talk about Matthew Boyd, what we saw, the big changes that Counsell is making to the lineup going forward versus lefties, the lineup, how they contributed to the win today. At the very beginning of the game was to start with Nico Hoerner, and then we'll talk about the end of the game as well, because Matthew Boyd could have gone for a complete game, why he didn't. Brad Keller also, how he's been doing of recent. So we'll get into all of that stuff today. We'll start today's show off with our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, so Matthew Boyd goes 8 innings against the New York Yankees. Does not allow a run, does not allow a hit until the 4th inning when Aaron Judge hit a double off of him. 6 strikeouts on the day. He's been, again, fantastic. He's a well-deserved all-star, a 2.34 ERA on the season. He's not going to pitch in the all-star game. Said that there's bigger things for the Cubs. He's right. There's bigger things for the Cubs on the horizon this year. That's their goal, and that's why Matthew Boyd is not going to pitch in the all-star game. Also, what's coming is, and part of that too, is the inning stuff, which we'll talk about towards the end of the show of why he didn't finish the game today. But he was excellent for 8 innings. And you saw in this game, it just such a night and day difference between, from Friday and Saturday, how much a good pitching performance just changes the tone of a baseball game. When he's able to go out there and battle and get guys out constantly, and even when there was a chance for damage against him, he did an incredible job. You go back to the bottom of the 4th inning. So Aaron Judge gets the first hit of the game for the Yankees. So you've got a runner on second with 2 outs, and he immediately strikes out Giancarlo Stanton to end the inning. Bottom of the 5th inning, Jazz Chisholm breaks his back, gets that kind of laugh out loud single, and then what happens? An immediate double play. So you get runners on, he's getting out of it, and then again in the bottom of the 7th, another Aaron Judge double. So you got a runner on second with 1 out. He gets a fly out and a ground out, and the inning is over for Matthew Boyd. So even in the 3 instances, really, where there was guys on base or potential damage, Matthew Boyd gets out of it very quickly, and he was just excellent. He's carried the Cubs. I said this the last time Boyd pitched for the Cubs. I don't know where they'd be. I don't know where the Cubs would be at this season, honestly, without Matthew Boyd. It has been an incredible signing. And again, yesterday is an example of the frustrations with ownership and the front office. Today is where you give, credit to the front office for finding a guy like Matthew Boyd, for taking a risk on a guy who hadn't pitched over 100 innings in a baseball game since 2000, or in a baseball season since 2019. And he just has continued to go out there, step up, and shut down teams on a consistent basis. So kudos to Matthew Boyd. Let's see. Brendan says second place without him. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely in second place without him. I mean, they're barely in first place right now. The Brewers are hot on your trails, and Matthew Boyd has been fantastic. So much better game today. Go for the win tomorrow. And that's what the Cubs need in this series, because the vibes were bad yesterday. Go out the next 2 days, get a win. They got one of those done. Face Will Warren tomorrow, a righty with like a 4.5 ERA on the season. So tomorrow is a winnable game for the Cubs, and they can go into the All-Star break with a series win against the New York Yankees, and that would be very, very positive. All right, let's talk about the changes now that we saw from Counsell in this game, and kind of the trickle-down effect that happened in this one. So we found out before the game officially, and I'm surprised. I said for the last couple shows, I didn't think the Cubs would make a change at the leadoff spot until, after the deadline. I mean, after the All-Star break. It just felt weird to me that they would do something like this with 3 games left to go before the break. But Ian Happ has an off day yesterday, and then today we find out from Counsell that going forward against lefties for the foreseeable future, Nico Hoerner is going to be the leadoff man against lefties. Now, you can have 2 views on this. One, it's a good decision by Counsell. The other view of it is, why only against lefties? It's why, Ian Happ's been struggling so much this year. Why is it only against lefties? But it works out. Nico Hoerner, leadoff triple Kyle Tucker brings them home on the ground out. The Cubs get 1-0 lead right away in the first inning. And Ian Happ has 2 hits on the day, including an RBI in this one. So, look, it's a 1-game sample size, but your immediate return on putting Nico at the top versus a lefty has a positive effect. So I'm a proponent of, until Ian Happ can really get going, of just having Nico Hoerner be your leadoff guy. I frankly would be fine if that was the decision just going forward regardless. If Ian Happ even gets going again, because if something's working, why change it? So if you move Ian Happ down and Nico's at the top and Ian Happ really gets going, it just lengthens your lineup. So I'm fine with this decision. I think it's a great decision. And really, I kind of am curious now what the limit is, honestly, or what's the bar for Craig Counsell to just make this flip full time to have Nico at the top. Your questions and comments always welcome here in the chat. Ryan says here, I think if the Cubs don't make a move this week, they have new guys in place before next weekend, it's a huge problem. I'm going to disagree for one reason. The only reason why is because the trade deadline's changed so much in baseball for 2 reasons. The expanded playoffs have really made it harder to make deals early on. There's really only a handful of teams that are going to sell right now. There are a lot of teams that are going on heaters. Like the Boston Red Sox are a great example, where they're all of a sudden back in this thing in a big way in the American League. And, a couple weeks ago, you could have argued they were, going to be sellers at the deadline. That's one. The other is that the MLB draft is this weekend? It's coming up. It's very soon. Next weekend, maybe. It's like the one thing in baseball I don't really follow that much is the draft. But that, bringing these 2 things together has really kind of changed the deadline, where GMs are so focused on the draft. Like the real trade conversations don't happen after. It's tomorrow. So maybe we will see this pick up a little bit, but I wouldn't expect to see. I mean, I would like it. I'm with you on that in the context of it, Ryan. But I would like to see a move be made when the Cubs are back against the Red Sox, adding something to this team. But I just don't think it'll happen. I think you're going to be having to wait until a little bit longer, unfortunately, for a big move to happen. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll talk about what we saw from the lineup today. The end of the game, obviously, a little stressful for Cubs fans. So we'll get into all of that next year on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always be talking to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, you can use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes all of that possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and the lowest price guarantee that takes the work out of buying. Look, I use Gametime for games, for concerts, for everything. Coming up out of the All-Star break, that first Sunday game against the Red Sox, I'm going to have to miss it because I use Gametime to buy tickets to see Hot Wheels monster trucks with my 4-year-old son. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's start first actually with what we saw there at the end of the game. So Matthew Boyd does not finish the game. Mid-80s in his pitch count. So, you're hearing JD talk about it, would like to see Boyd come out there, finish the ninth inning. He doesn't do it. They put Brad Keller on the mound. So there's really three parts to the ninth inning that we have to go through. So the Boyd decision. Look, Matthew Boyd in the last 3 years has pitched, not including this season, sorry. So 2022, 23, and 24 has pitched a combined 123 innings on those 3 seasons. The last time he had over 100 innings pitched in a season is 2019 with the Detroit Tigers. He's at 103. That might not even include today's game. So he might be at 111 after this one. So that's why Boyd's not out there for the ninth. My guess is he's done a really good job today. You've got a 5-0 lead. You should be able to trust Brad Keller, who we'll talk about here in a second. But you got innings you got to worry about the long term. It's why he's not pitching the All-Star game. It's why they're having, they mentioned this on the broadcast today, on the TV broadcast, that they might push him to the back end of the rotation coming out of the All-Star break just to give him even more time off before he really gets going in the second half. So that's my guess is why we're seeing this happen regularly for Boyd, where he's coming out in low pitch counts. It's not an innings limit. It's a pitch count limit, really, for the most part. You don't need him to go 100 pitches at this point in the season. Save that for later. Save that for September and October when you really need him. That's fine. So for now, I'm fine with the premise of the decision to take Matthew Boyd out for the ninth inning. So now the next part of this, Brad Keller. His last 3 outings have been tough. He's struggling out there. The command, where the ball is going, it just seems to all have been lost. Look, and he was stellar for a long time this season. Was really going out there performing every single time he was on the mound. But the last 3 performances have not been great for Keller. There's no denying that. So the question is this like a regression to the mean, or is he just having a rough patch of baseball and he's going to rebound after the All-Star break? For Brad Keller, the All-Star break is happening at the absolute best point of the season because he needs this break, the way he's been pitching. He needs the break. He needs the time off. If it's a mechanical issue, arm tiredness at all, like you got to give him some time off, regroup, and see where he's at outside the All-Star break. So kind of like with like the team and everything as a whole, I'm talking about in terms of teams catching you and passing you and everything like that. Same thing with Keller for me. He's been good enough this year to where there's no reason to panic in my mind, but it is something to watch because the last 3 outings have just not been good for him. And the flip side of that, the positive side, is with Boyd. Daniel Palencia comes in with a runner on base, absolutely shuts it down. Strikes out Jazz Chisholm. Great at bat for Daniel Palencia there. And then he gets the ground out to end the game, and he gets his 11th save on the season. And ball game is over, and the Cubs get the win 5-2. All right, now let's talk about the lineup here and what we saw today. So we mentioned the changes. Nico Hoerner leads off. Ian Happ is in the 7th spot, and Nico Hoerner starts the game off with a leadoff triple right away. Tucker gets the ground out, but it brings the run home, and the Cubs have a 1-0 lead. And then in the top of the second, Ian Happ, his first at-bat here in the 7th spot, gets a single. Here you do have runners on base, first and second with 2 outs, and Nico Hoerner made great contact. It was a liner right to Jazz Chisholm to end the inning. So the Cubs don't get any runs there when they have a chance in the second, but they get most of their damage here in the third. Kyle Tucker, leadoff single, Seiya Suzuki double. So you got second and third with no outs. Carson Kelly hits this grounder to third base. It's deflected by Peraza. Him and Volpe are both kind of going in the same direction. So the Cubs get their next run of the game. So it's 2-0 Cubs. And then Dansby Swanson hits into what should be a double play, but hustle, 2 bad throws, kind of all of the above, leads to a run scoring. It's 3-0 Cubs. And then Ian Happ comes up. Here he comes again in the 7th spot, RBI single, and it's 4-0 Cubs at the end of the top of the 3rd inning. And Carson Kelly, who had an RBI, as we just went through in this game, comes through in the top of the 8th with a big insurance run and a home run in that one. Again, Carson Kelly is cooking again. He has played much, much better. He's really getting going to not to the extreme that it was early in the season with how fantastic he had been, but he's swinging the bat really well. And that's where you think about the positives of the Cubs in the lineup. And yes, there's been some real roller coaster moments where it feels like it's a big number or a nothing number. Today was that in between where they put up 5 runs. But Carson Kelly getting going, I think, and then hopefully this lineup change can really be the catalyst to really get this thing going forward for the Cubs lineup to just be consistent on a more regular basis. Because again, you look at every offensive category, they're still in like the top 6 in virtually every important category in baseball. It's been a struggle. The biggest thing has been with runners in scoring position the last month of the season, last 40 days, I would say. That's where the Cubs struggle has been the most. Okay. So that struggles is the thing that I think we have to keep an eye on the most coming out of the All-Star break. We think about like the big picture of this team is who are you really? Are you the team, the first month and a half of the season, or kind of the team we've seen the last month and a half of the season? That to me is the question. A lot of conversation here happening in the chat about Matt Shaw, who we saw John Birdie play again. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be shocked if John Birdie's at third base again tomorrow as well, because look, they are trying to work on some mechanical stuff with Shaw. You don't want a player's confidence to be ruined in their first major league season. He's already been sent down once. He's struggling mightily. He's played great third base defense, but the bat's just not been there. So it wouldn't shock me if we see Birdie in the lineup again on Sunday, and then we see Shaw return to his spot as the everyday third baseman coming out of the All-Star break. All right. My name is Joe George. You find me on all social media platforms at Joe George Radio. Let's see any other final questions here in the chat. I don't think so. I think that looks like all the ones that I see here. A lot of conversation that happened about Matt Shaw at third base right now. So thanks for watching. We will be back with you tomorrow for our last game or our last show before the All-Star break. So again, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel right here, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify. Thanks for hanging out with us. The Cubs win 5-2 going for the series win tomorrow. So thanks for watching. Peace.